Recently my family went through something you never think you'll actually have to deal with. My grandpa pulled a gun on 3 fake HOA goons. And get this, they actually tried to press charges against him. Their excuse? An American flag, which they called a threatening political display. The irony? The only threat that got removed was them, thanks to the real cops. Let me back up and tell you how this whole bizarre thing started. By the way, drop a comment and let me know where you're tuning in from today. That morning, when I walked outside, I honestly thought my Grandpa Joe had finally lost it. There he was in his bathrobe, holding his Glock, and 3 guys in full tactical gear were frozen on our front lawn like he just yanked the pin on a grenade. My first thought was, Grandpa, what did you do? My second was, why are they backing up? Then it clicked. No badges, no real uniforms, just cheap cargo vests, knockoff radios, and boots so clean they clearly hadn't seen a day of actual work. And Grandpa Joe? Cool as a cucumber, sipping his coffee. That's when it hit me, he wasn't the threat, they were. Let me rewind about 3 days. A letter shows up in our mailbox, no stamp, no return address, just a printed sheet accusing Grandpa Joe of displaying a threatening political symbol. The symbol? An American flag. The same one he'd folded at his best friend's funeral, the one he raised every single morning like it was part of his daily routine. Apparently, a busybody named Brenda, the neighborhood's self-appointed rule enforcer, had filed an HOA violation for non-neutral displays of patriotism. And if that sounds fake, trust me, it was. No official HOA letterhead, no board signature, not even a contact number, just a P.O. box and a note that reeked of intimidation. Grandpa Joe, wearing his usual cardigan, didn't even flinch. He read it once, set it down, and deadpanned, printed in Comic Sans. That's the real crime. I checked the county records. No active HOA, no Section 9D, no flag compliance code. So, naturally, when Brenda's husband, Kevin, a guy who embodies having no spine, showed up the next day, we knew something was seriously off. He brought a store-bought apple pie, saying Brenda felt bad about the misunderstanding. Then, like it was a casual afterthought, he asked, "Is this house still in your name, or is it in the family trust?" Grandma Carol, bless her heart, just smiled and asked, "Would you like some cream with that, dear?" She was calm, but Grandpa Joe definitely wasn't buying it. That night, someone bent our flagpole. Not enough to break it, just enough to send a message. He fixed it in silence. Then came this morning. 7:14 a.m. 3 guys, no knock, no announcement, just standing at the edge of our property like they were waiting for a director to yell action. The clipboard guy, Mr. Henderson, said, "You're in violation of HOA Code 9D. We're here for compliance enforcement. You're on private property." Grandpa Joe, never one to back down, replied, "This is an official inspection? Your failure to cooperate could be escalated." He took a step forward. Grandpa Joe didn't budge. "And I'll escalate you into those bushes," he warned. Henderson held his ground, but his eyes flicked sideways, a clear signal. One of the other guys moved his hand towards his belt. That's when Grandpa Joe's Glock appeared faster than you can say remote control. He didn't aim it, didn't need to. He just held it low, steady, and real enough that the guy's tough guy act vanished like smoke in a wind tunnel. The second guy backed off. The third one stiffened up like his ego had been deep frozen. "We'll be reporting this," Henderson said, his lips tight. "Great," Grandpa Joe shot back. "Spell my name right. The J in Joe is for justice." That's when I finally stepped outside. Not because I wanted to, but because I'd heard Grandma Carol whisper, "He's about to say something reckless." I opened the door and walked into what looked like a deleted scene from a low-budget action flick. "Stay on the porch," Grandpa Joe told me. "Witness statements are cleaner from 10 feet away." They eventually left, one of them tripping over the curb on the way out. I actually laughed. Grandpa Joe didn't. He lowered the Glock and took a long sip of his now cold coffee. Then he said, "I didn't like how that one looked at the fence. I thought that was it. I was wrong. 22 minutes later, an unmarked black cruiser pulled up, engine still warm. 2 officers got out, no smiles, no urgency, just calm suspicion. The younger one glanced at the flag. The older one looked at Grandpa Joe, then reached for his radio. "Sir, can you please set the firearm down?" he asked. And I knew right then, this wasn't over. It hadn't even really started. The cops weren't late, they were pointed, and someone had made sure they were aimed at us. Brenda stood across the street, smiling like she'd just won a war. Not a flicker of guilt, not a hint of shame, just a picture-perfect grin, arms crossed, watching the cruiser pull away from our driveway like she'd just served justice with a side of pie. Cherry pie this time, still in the box, still frozen solid in the middle, still an insult disguised as a gesture. I watched her from the living room window. No wave, no blink, just standing there in that same pastel polo shirt, that same power walking posture, waiting for someone to thank her for calling the cops on a veteran. Inside, it was silent. No one said a word until Grandma Carol finally moved, quietly placing Grandpa Joe's Glock back in the lockbox under the sink, handling it like it was a fragile family heirloom. Heirloom that had just been through something sacred. Grandpa Joe didn't even look up. He just sipped his coffee and muttered, "Tastes like cowardice. For you, a free like is easy. But for me, it is the greatest support and encouragement. For this video, can you give me 1 like and 1 subscription? Thank you very much." My mom, Sarah, broke the silence first. Her voice shook a little. "Dad, what if they come back? Then we'll be ready." "No, I mean real cops, with papers, charges. They're not real until they know the law. Until then, they're just people in polyester." He took another sip, then went back to the porch like nothing had happened. I hung back. I didn't follow because something in his shoulders had shifted. He wasn't angry, he wasn't scared, he was calculating. The next day, Brenda returned like clockwork. Not with apologies, but with paperwork. She walked up the driveway like a campaign manager stumping for tyranny, clipboard in one hand, store brand cherry pie in the other. Grandma Carol opened the door. "Oh, hi. I just wanted to drop this off. Nothing urgent, just a little homeowner update packet. After all the drama yesterday, we wanted to make sure Ray feels supported." Grandma Carol stared at her, then at the pie, then back at her. "Is this one frozen, too?" "Oh, I keep them chilled so they travel better." "Chilled, or cryogenically preserved?" Brenda fake laughed, like in a bad car commercial. "You're always so sharp, Bev." She handed over the folder, then turned her charm beam directly at Grandpa Joe, who hadn't moved from his chair. "Mr. Morrison, I want to personally thank you for how composed you were yesterday. Honestly, I told the board that things got a little out of hand. Our compliance team can be a bit intense." "That's one word," Grandpa Joe muttered, not looking up. "We just want to be sure we're keeping the neighborhood safe, balanced, harmonious." She lingered on that last word like she was auditioning for a cult. "The flag incident? Pure miscommunication. No one's against veterans. We just want to keep things visually neutral, you understand? Neutral, as in beige, silent, controlled. You'll find the form explains everything," Brenda added, tapping the folder. "Just basic info, homeowner details, household assets, insurance. Things that help us tailor the HOA experience." "HOA experience?" I said. "Is that like getting robbed, but with punch cards?" Brenda turned to me, fake amused. "You must be the tech-savvy one. Your generation is so good with these things. Maybe you could help Ray fill it out? It's online, too," she winked. And I swear, to everything holy, that was the moment I decided I was going to burn her entire fake empire to the ground. We didn't touch the pie, but we dissected the folder. It asked for full name, date of birth, social security number, spouse's employment, military discharge status, banking preferences, retirement timeline, and a weird question: "Do you utilize external security systems?" Yes/no. I scanned the document metadata. It was dirty, multiple edits, different authors, Created on a cracked Windows 7 machine. File name, Master Compliance Senior Target Final version 2. Grandma Carol didn't flinch when I read that. This isn't about a flag, she said. It's about access. Grandpa Joe still hadn't moved, still on the porch, still sipping. They don't want the house, he said finally. They want us out of it. That night, we ran a scan on the router. I found 2 unknown devices piggybacking on our network, both logging traffic. Someone had been watching us. Brenda hadn't just made the flag a problem, she'd used it to start a campaign, and we weren't the first. I tracked forum posts, Reddit threads. One elderly vet 3 counties over had filed a lawsuit last year against a compliance team that resembled the same 3 men who showed up on our porch. Different names, same MO, send fake citations, harass, pressure the sale, then flip the house fast through a shell LLC. A scam ring disguised as concerned neighbors. The next morning, I opened the mailbox and found something new, a flyer. No name, no branding, just the words, "You still have time to comply." Underneath, a picture of our porch from last night. That wasn't a warning, it was a countdown. And Brenda wasn't just playing dirty anymore, she was playing for keeps. And that meant war. It started with a voice that felt like it was smiling, not a friendly smile, that other smile, the kind that snakes give when they think you haven't seen their fangs. "Mr. Raymond Morrison, who's asking?" Grandpa Joe said. "This is Officer Bradley from the HOA Security Division. We're reaching out regarding your recent compliance violation." Grandpa Joe gave me a look, the kind of look that says, "Don't say a word." "Is this a live call?" he asked. "Yes, sir. We're just verifying some details for the digital update process." "What exactly are you updating?" "Nothing personal, just standard records, name, insurance provider, pension source, mortgage balance." He didn't speak, just breathed long and slow through his nose, like he was deciding whether to end the call or burn the house down and move to the woods. The voice kept going, too casual. "It's part of a county-wide optimization for senior security and..." Click. No warning, no goodbye. Grandpa Joe hung up mid-sentence, then stared at the phone like it had insulted his ancestors. "Trace it," he said, setting it down like a grenade. I was already on it. Rubber ready, proxy chain deconstructing. I'd built this tool for fun, a senior project meant to screen spam calls. Now, it was war ready. 3 signal jumps, one bounced through a Miami VIP relay, one rerouted through a shell network in Nevada, and the origin? Local. A strip mall 1 town over, registered to a place called Civic Edge Support LLC. I cross-referenced it against known business listings. No landline, no public office. The address had been used by 4 other consulting firms in the last year, all dissolved within 90 days. Their website? A 1-page fake with a compliance badge so pixelated it looked stolen from a clip art folder. Then I found it, 15 duplicate sites, all identical in structure, different HOA names, different fake logos. Each one featured a report a violation button, a settle fine now portal, and a confidential homeowner update form asking for date of birth, social security number, spouse information, and preferred method of verification, which was code for what's the best way to rob you without a paper trail. I turned to Grandpa Joe, showed him everything. He didn't blink. "This isn't just about a flag," I said. "No," he said. "It's about the person holding it." That's when it hit me. The script the scammer used? It mirrored Brenda's exact phrasing from the day before, "Just need to confirm your pension provider, part of a digital compliance update. You should have received a folder." They weren't freelancing, they were reading from the same manual. That night, we went into full lockdown. Not scared, focused. Mom Sarah double-checked every lock and window. Grandma Carol unplugged the Wi-Fi camera and replaced it with an analog backup Grandpa Joe had built back in '94. And Grandpa Joe? He just sat in his usual spot, sharpening a screwdriver on a whetstone. Not a knife, not a weapon, a screwdriver. "Why?" I asked. Because people don't expect to lose a fight to a toolbox. The next day, we received a new letter. No return address, no postage, just one sheet of paper perfectly centered in the envelope. Final courtesy notice. Continued non-cooperation may result in physical verification. Attached. A QR code, just floating there, no label, no instructions. I scanned it in a sandboxed browser. It led to a dashboard, real-time list of addresses, drop-down tabs labeled status, progress, escalation tier. There were photos, our porch, our fence, our mailbox, each tagged, each time-stamped, each marked with last verified, today, 5:46 a.m. We weren't being watched, we were being targeted. I dug into the server logs. The site was still warm. Someone was logged in just minutes ago. And the profile list? It wasn't just Grandpa Joe. Mr. Delaney, retired, lives alone, status, low resistance. The Padillas, elderly couple, tagged, assets confirmed, home insurance outdated. Grandpa Morrison, stubborn, prior military, uncooperative, psychological tactics ineffective, pressure window, Tuesday. I stopped scrolling. Tuesday? What happens Tuesday? I asked. That's when they come, Grandpa Joe said. How do you know? Because that's the day they think I'll finally crack. Will you? Not if you keep your laptop on and your mouth shut. Later that night, I noticed something off with the front gate sensor, a faint, high-pitched hum, like feedback interference. I traced the line, found a small black disc lodged behind the gate post. Magnetized, thin, still warm. A listening device. Nothing fancy, but enough to catch ambient sound from the porch. That meant they'd been there physically within the last 12 hours. I brought it inside, set it on the kitchen table. Grandma Carol looked at it, then at me. Take it apart, she said. Let's find out what they know. The scam call wasn't just a con, it was an opening shot. And if Tuesday was when they were coming for us, then we had 72 hours to make them regret picking a fight with the wrong family. I've never seen Grandpa Joe blink that slow. It was the kind of blink that meant he was mentally moving furniture, repositioning exits, weighing threats, calculating angles. For you, a free like is easy. But for me, it is the greatest support and encouragement. For this video, can you give me 1 like and 1 subscription? Thank you very much. 3 men were on our front porch. No knock, no warning, no hesitation. They didn't just cross the line, they stepped into the lion's den. Wearing cologne. Vest guy led the charge, same sunglasses, tighter jaw, clipboard tucked under his arm like a warrant he knew he didn't have. Behind him, a younger one, we'll call him Bootkit, held a slim silver binder and kept scanning the windows like he expected backup. The third, the muscle, buzz cut, square shoulders, quiet, AWOL pretending to be a man. We're here to finalize compliance verification, Vest announced, eyes scanning the porch furniture like it offended him. You weren't invited, Grandpa Joe replied without looking up. This isn't a social call. It's about to be your last. Silence. Bootkit stepped forward, handed over a paper that wasn't folded. That alone was weird. This is a printed notice of HOA enforcement review, he said. Due to multiple refusal to cooperate incidents, we're authorized to inspect. Authorized by who? Grandpa Joe stood, didn't raise his voice, didn't reach for anything, just stood. The air changed. By the county municipal board, section dash. There is no municipal board, Grandpa Joe said. Sir, dash, there's no law giving HOA officers right of entry. And if you're impersonating law enforcement, I suggest you remember that's a felony in this state. Buzzcut shifted. Grandpa Joe watched him move like he was reading subtitles on a foreign film. Then, calm as breathing, Grandpa Joe stepped over to the porch bench, lifted the lid of a cooler, and pulled out his Glock. Didn't brandish it, didn't lift it chest high, just held it down and forward, visible, centered, undeniable. Now, he said, let's start over. Name, badge, jurisdiction. Vest opened his mouth, closed it, then tried again. We're contractors for the HOA. You're escalating. No, you escalated when you walked past my property line without cause. You're not compliance officers, you're mailroom mercenaries in fake vests. Buzzcut stepped forward. Big mistake. Grandpa Joe adjusted his grip, safety off. The click wasn't loud, but it carved silence into the air. I was watching from inside, and for a second, I almost didn't move because this wasn't a man protecting his porch. This was a man who'd spent 30 years running black site checkpoints and only needed one good reason to shut it all down. Step back, I said finally, stepping outside. You're trespassing. You're being recorded, and you're about to make the dumbest decision of your week. We have legal authority, Vest insisted, lifting his clipboard. That's a Staples special, I snapped. You printed that header last night. Want me to name the font? They hesitated because they knew. And then, like a snake with timing issues, Brenda's voice cut through the moment like a spoon dragging across ceramic. I warned you. She called from the curb, phone up, already filming. This is exactly what non-compliance looks like. This man is dangerous. Dangerous. I turned to her. Your goons just walked onto our porch with no legal grounds. The community deserves peace. She shouted. You're making people feel unsafe. You planted a listening device in our hedges last night. She blinked too fast, too many times. Prove it, she said. I don't have to, I said, stepping down the porch. I already gave the proof to someone who does care. The officers didn't say a word because they weren't officers, they were fall guys. Bootcut lowered his clipboard. Buzzcut cracked his neck like he was ready to throw a punch but couldn't figure out who to swing at first. Grandpa Joe didn't move, didn't blink. You've got 10 seconds, he said, to get off my porch. Or what? Vest asked. Or I call the real cops and have them bring the zip ties this time. They left. Not fast, not angry, just slowly, like they finally realized they weren't the predators in this story, they were the prey. But Brenda? She didn't move. She stood there filming like she was narrating her own documentary on community courage. You'll regret this, she said. I'm filing a full incident report with video. Make sure to title it Karen Gets Owned by a Grandpa with a Gun, I told her. 30 minutes later, 2 squad cars pulled up. This time with lights, this time with real badges. They came asking who had pulled the gun, not why it was necessary. And in that moment, I realized they weren't investigating an incident, they were managing a narrative. We started rigging the porch around 1:30 a.m. No ceremony, no dramatic music, just me, Grandpa Joe, a backpack full of tools, and the quiet hum of a neighborhood that didn't know it was about to become a war zone. The moon was a sharp, cold light, hitting the front steps like it was spotlighting a crime scene in progress. Fitting, honestly. Start with the sensor grid, Grandpa Joe whispered, squatting beside the planter box. Keep the chalk low, eye level to a raccoon, not a human. I blinked. You've done this before? He didn't answer, just handed me a roll of fishing line and kept moving like his body still remembered drills the rest of us only saw in spy movies. The sensor rig was just the start. By 3 a.m., we'd looped motion detectors through the side gate, recalibrated the backyard floodlight trigger on thermal difference, and hot-wired a backup power cell to run independent of the house grid in case they cut the main. Grandpa Joe said, taping the last junction box shut. He wasn't talking about a fake HOA anymore, he was talking like someone who expected professionals, or at least desperate amateurs who thought they were. Grandma Carol was already 4 steps ahead. She pushed the couch 6 inches off the wall to expose a small compartment hidden in the flooring, lined with mylar blankets, bottled water, and a modified stun gun. Used to be a cattle prod, she said. What else don't I know about you? I asked. You know I bake pies, she said. You didn't ask what I did when Ray was in the field. She handed me a pair of gloves and walked off, humming something I'd only ever heard in war documentaries. Mom Sarah wasn't handling it the same way. She hovered near the living room window, arms folded so tight it looked like she was trying to hold her own body together. This is overkill, she muttered. This can't be happening. They're HOA scammers, not mercenaries. They're predators, I said, adjusting the perimeter camera angle, and they're organized. She didn't argue, she just watched Grandpa Joe out. The way he paced the property line like it was sacred ground. At 4:12 a.m., we placed the decoy folder. It looked innocent, manila cover, 2 pieces of paper inside. One was a fake compliance form, signed HOA Senior Verification Division. The other was a QR code linked to a dummy site that would track the exact GPS location of whoever opened it. We slid it into a plastic sleeve, weighted it with pennies so it wouldn't blow away, and laid it dead center on the porch mat. If they take the bait, I asked, then we know they're not just watching, Grandpa Joe said. They're hunting. At 6 a.m., the sky started bleeding pink behind the trees. That's when we knew it was time to rest, but Grandpa Joe didn't sleep. He sat in the rocker with the Glock across his lap, humming something low and mechanical, the kind of melody that doesn't come from a song but a habit. Later that day, the van came back. Not fast, not slow, creeping, unmarked, dark-tinted, engine barely audible. Grandpa Joe didn't move, but I could feel his posture change. He shifted weight into his back leg, eyed the driveway like it might lift off the ground and charge him. A face leaned out of the passenger window briefly, a camera clicked, flash gone. They didn't get out, they didn't need to. They were collecting intel. They're mapping our response time, Grandpa Joe muttered, seeing how fast we react, where we move, who watches them, and what do we do. Nothing, he said. Because tonight, we don't react. We record. That evening, Mom Sarah finally cracked. You're putting this whole family in danger, she said. They put us in danger the minute they stepped on our porch, Grandpa Joe replied. You think you're still in the field, Ray, but this isn't a battlefield, it's a neighborhood. To them, it's both. We didn't eat dinner that night, not really. Grandma Carol set out some crackers and cheese, nobody touched them. Even the dog didn't bark. It was the kind of silence that feels like the world's holding its breath. At 9:32 p.m., we activated the full system, cameras, microphones, redundant battery backups. The flash drive in the dummy folder was hot, recording. The side gate crossbar was bolted. The sensor grid lit green, trip alerts were routed to my phone, Grandpa Joe's phone, and one backup server in another state. Worst case scenario? I asked. They breach. Best case? We catch them doing it. Grandpa Joe stared into the dark. You ever ask yourself why people like Brenda think they can get away with it? He said. Because no one stops them. Because they pick people who won't. He adjusted the porch light by a quarter angle. Not this time. At 11:01 p.m., the porch light cut. Not out, just off. Motion sensor failed. Backup tripped and reset. I checked my phone, power still flowing, signal active. But something moved in the hedge line. Too slow for wind, too careful for raccoons, and just quiet enough to be intentional. The porch was ready. The house was silent. And just past the edge of the lawn, something moved. That's when the night stopped being quiet and started being personal. It was the click of a boot on loose gravel that did it. That split-second crunch, too deliberate for wildlife, too dumb for a professional. I froze in my room, eyes glued to the phone as the surveillance feed lit up, one note after another. Zone 1 ping. Zone 3 double ping. Zone 5 motion hold. Someone was at the side gate. Someone was on the porch. Someone else already near the back fence. I didn't breathe because, for the first time, it wasn't a test, it was go time. Grandpa Joe didn't knock, didn't yell, just appeared behind me like an old war ghost, already dressed, Glock holstered but visible. You see him? One near the door, two flanking, fourth maybe decoy. He didn't answer, just took one long breath and muttered, "Show me what they learned." We kept the lights off. That was part of the trap, psychological exposure. They were banking on confusion, on us being asleep, but they weren't ready for a house that was more fortified than a Vegas casino vault run by retirees. Outside, One of them knelt down to pick up the decoy folder. We had coated the handle in invisible UV marker gel, just enough to stick to his gloves and light him up like a cheap Halloween costume under the infrared feed. He didn't know it yet, but the second he touched that folder, he stopped being a trespasser and became evidence. Inside, Grandma Carol gave the signal, one flick of the hallway light, office on, off again. Translation, porch movement, film it all. I'm live routing the feed to the backup server, I whispered. Good, Grandpa Joe said. Now watch this. The second guy hit the hedges near the garage door. He didn't see the can trap in the mulch bed, 3 rusty Folgers tins wired together with fishing line and a bit of rebar tension. The sound it made was less like a rattle, more like a metallic scream. He cursed and jumped back, too late. The motion light kicked on, and we got him full face. No mask, just garden variety panic in 4K. But it was the third guy who changed everything. He didn't run, he charged straight up the steps, right to the storm door. He didn't knock, he kicked. Nope, Grandpa Joe said. He opened the main door with the calm of a man turning off a slow-burning kettle. One look, one silent moment, and then click, the unmistakable sound of a safety being switched off. For you, a free like is easy. But for me, it is the greatest support and encouragement. For this video, can you give me 1 like and 1 subscription? Thank you very much. Step back, now, Grandpa Joe said, voice cold enough to make frost on the doorknob. We thought this place was abandoned. The guy yelled, panic edging his voice like he was trying to convince a judge at 1 o'clock in the morning. You don't have to pull a weapon, man. I haven't, Grandpa Joe replied, taking a single step forward. Not yet. And that's when Brenda arrived. Of course, she did. She showed up in her bathrobe, hair done as if this whole circus was just another HOA audit to supervise, phone in hand, camera rolling, already mid-rant. This is it. This is the behavior I've been warning people about. Aggression. Weapons. Non-compliance. Brenda, your guys just kicked my front door in. I shouted, storming outside. I don't have guys. Then what's this? Your Craigslist community improvement team? This was a misunderstanding. You printed the folder they tried to steal. There's no proof of that. It's tagged with your printer's metadata. That hit her like a brick. Her face dropped half an inch, her voice caught in her throat like it had somewhere more important to be. Buzz cut, yeah, he was back, came limping up from the side, half his sleeve torn, covered in UV paint and garden mulch like he lost a wrestling match with a gnome. Karen, he wheezed. We're not doing this. This guy's armed. He's got sensors and traps, and I think he filmed everything. We'll handle it legally, Brenda said. Number 1, you handle this, he said, pointing at her. I'm done. He left. Not walked, ran. The last guy, the quiet one, just stared at us from the edge of the yard, then turned, got in the van, and drove off without a word. The porch went quiet. Even the wind slowed down. Brenda didn't run, but her face changed. The smile, fake, HOA polished, dropped, and in its place, a flicker of something real, fear. You set this up, she said, pointing at the cameras. You planned to catch us. I plan to survive you, Grandpa Joe said. You don't know who you're messing with. Neither do you. By the time the cops rolled up, real ones this time, the footage was already syncing to cloud storage. Grandma Carol had 4 time-stamped screenshots printed out, and I had a USB drive in my pocket labeled HOA Insurgents 1 AM or MP4. They didn't even question the Glock this time. They just asked, do you have the video? We have 6, I said. That's going to make this easier. Brenda didn't speak as they put her in the car. She didn't look at us, but as the door shut, she whispered something into her sleeve. And that's when I realized she wasn't working alone. If you've never seen a power-hungry HOA president slowly realize she's losing control in front of a banana bread-wielding crowd of senior citizens, you're missing out on one of life's top 5 most satisfying experiences. That moment, we were about to deliver it. The meeting was scheduled for 3 p.m. That wasn't random. Brenda always scheduled meetings for the middle of the day when most people were working or wrangling kids or doing literally anything except sit in a folding chair next to someone named Carl with opinions about lawn heights. But this time, the seats were full. Grandma Carol had spread the word over the phone tree. Grandpa Joe had handed out printouts. I had posted an anonymous tip-off in the neighborhood Facebook group with the subject line as the HOA stealing your data? Meeting at 3 today. Every chair was full. Half the back row stood. And on the table at the front, a stack of banana bread, still warm, courtesy of Grandma Carol and possibly part of her secret psychological warfare plan. Brenda stood front and center, clipboard in hand, visor perfectly centered. Behind her, a cheap projector and a sheet taped to the wall like we were about to screen a conspiracy theory doc. "Thank you for coming," she began. "As your compliance coordinator, I want to start today's meeting with a few brief objections," Grandpa Joe said, standing. He didn't yell, didn't gesture, just stood, and the room tilted. "Sir, we haven't opened the floor," Brenda tried. "Then open it." The man seated to Brenda's left cleared his throat. "Karen, maybe we should just let him speak. There's clearly some. There's nothing to discuss until we have footage," I said, and then I clicked the remote. The projector flickered to life. Slide 1, buzzcut mid-sprint, eyes full of cayenne, running across our lawn like a discount action movie extra. Timestamp, 1:19 a.m. Slide 2 was crowbar guy on our porch, gloved hand gripping the decoy folder, zoomed in, our UV marker glowing under infrared. Slide 3 was Brenda standing on the street, yelling, "This is what I've been warning people about. Audio on, volume up. This is what I've been warning people about." Brenda's face went flat. "That's edited," she said quickly. "You've clearly." "Unedited timestamp," I said, tapping the screen. "Original resolution, metadata preserved. Would you like to explain how your voice ended up here? That's out of context. You're in a bathrobe, screaming at 1 a.m. while 4 men flee a crime scene. What's the context you'd like us to consider? Pajama-based counterterrorism." Chuckles from the back, louder than Brenda liked. Enough that she snapped, "This meeting is for official agenda items only? You mean like this?" Grandma Carol stepped forward and slapped a printed page on the table. Brenda frowns. "This is a PDF you emailed out 2 weeks ago. A senior support update form asking for banking details, social security info, and military discharge records. That's standard compliance. It was created on your home printer," I cut in. "Same model, same serial stamp. And the embedded metadata from the file creation matches the IP address registered to your home Wi-Fi. You hacked me. You emailed it. You sent your scam to a veteran with a tech-savvy grandson. That's not hacking, Brenda. That's called picking the wrong house." A voice from the back, "Wait, I got that form. I thought it was mandatory." "Same here. Mine said I owed $225 in late violations. They called me non-compliant because of my wind chimes." My wind chimes. The room was boiling now. Brenda tried to pivot. "This is clearly a coordinated smear campaign. And what would you call 4 men approaching our home at 1 a.m., Brenda?" Grandpa Joe said. "A misunderstanding? They left with our mail and ran when the floodlights hit them." "That's not a misunderstanding, that's an escape." Another board member, clearly sweating, asked, "Karen, is any of this true? This is an ambush." "Ma'am," said a neighbor near the door, "you passed out those forms at bridge night. You told me I couldn't attend the potluck if I didn't give you my Medicare number." Another woman shrieked. Brenda's lip twitched. The mask wasn't slipping, it was shattering. I clicked again. Last slide, a still frame of Brenda's scam ring dashboard, the compliance tool that tracked neighborhood targets. She was tagged as administrator, Grandpa Joe as hostile veteran, escalate pressure, Mr. Delaney down the street as ideal acquisition target, no cameras. It was the most damning spreadsheet in HOA history. Brenda said nothing. She stood, knocked over her chair, and ran. The room exploded. Shouts, yells, people waving their forms in the air like lottery tickets from the underworld. One guy grabbed his phone and called his lawyer right there. Another lady demanded to form an emergency HOA oversight subcommittee within 30 seconds. But I didn't move because, as Brenda shoved open the side exit, one figure stepped through. Calm, gray blazer, no clipboard, no name tag, clean-shaven, glasses, smiling. He nodded at Brenda as they passed each other. She didn't meet his eyes. And then he walked straight toward me. Not fast, not slow, deliberate, impressive presentation. "Thanks," he said. "Would you mind stepping outside? We need to talk about what happens next." Because Brenda was never the boss, she was the face. And now, the man who built the system she weaponized had just introduced himself. He knew my name before I said a word. "Impressive drop," he said, "the slides, the timing, the crowd control." Karen always underestimated the drama of a slow reveal. He smiled like we were co-workers meeting at a leadership retreat. I stared back because you don't shake hands with a man who watched a fraud ring burn and didn't even blink. We stepped out of the rec center into the humid parking lot. Birds chirped, a sprinkler hissed nearby, normal sounds, which only made it worse. Grandpa Joe joined me a moment later, arms folded, boots planted like he was back on some unmarked border 40 years ago. "So," he said, "you're the boss." "Not the word I'd use," the man replied. "I manage regional efficiency." Karen was inefficient. She sent 4 men to rob your porch. And look how messy that became. He shook his head. "It's not the act that matters, it's the blowback." He wasn't big or intimidating, but everything about him screamed, "Don't push me unless you know exactly how far I push back." He gestured to the sidewalk. We didn't follow. So he adjusted his cufflinks, pulled out a small white envelope, and handed it to me. Inside, printouts, property records, city maps, HOA databases, and one page that made my chest lock up. "Our names." "You've made a lot of noise," he said, "the kind of noise that triggers audits, scrutiny, media inquiries. None of which are great for people who don't realize they're on several lists already." I scanned the page, Grandpa Joe's military discharge, my college transcript, Grandma Carol's old land deed, all flagged. "This supposed to scare us?" "No," he said, leaning slightly forward. "This is me showing you what I could have used if I wanted this to end differently." Grandpa Joe narrowed his eyes. "You trying to bribe us? Threaten us?" "No. I'm offering you a pivot. Take the win." The videos vanish. Karen disappears. The neighborhood forgets. And your little racket stays intact. You don't stop fire by punching the smoke, Mr. Morrison. My hands curled around the people want, except the ones who don't play along. Then we incentivize compliance. "You call stealing home titles compliance?" I asked. He smirked. "Only when they weren't reading the fine print." Grandpa Joe stepped forward, voice low and flat. "You're not smart." The man blinked once. "Excuse me? You're careful, polished, trained, but you made one mistake, which is you showed up." The air dropped 10 degrees. "We've been doing this dance for months," Grandpa Joe said. "Letters, surveys, calls, then thugs, then Brenda, now you. I'm not a thug. You're worse. You're the architect." He didn't deny it, just smiled again, that smile you use when someone's just figured out the shape of the knife you've already placed in their back. "This was never about the flag," I said. "It was about testing us, seeing if the veteran would roll over, if the kid was too online to notice. And you noticed." "We didn't just notice," I said. "We traced your dummy corporations, found your Stripe routing numbers. Half your websites still have lorem ipsum on the privacy policy. You think this is new?" He said, his voice going cold. "This operation has been running since 2004. You think you're the first smart kid with a laptop and a conscience?" "No," Grandpa Joe said. "But we'll be the last." He paused, hands still, then he reached into his coat again, slowly, and pulled out a plain, unbranded phone. No apps, no icons, just one screen, a countdown timer. You have 24 hours, he said, to scrub the video, remove the Facebook post, delete your copies. If not, he let it hang. You'll see what it feels like when your name is on the HOA's red list. Grandpa Joe looked at the screen, then at me. We done here? He asked. Not quite, I said. And then I held up my phone, still recording, still streaming. Smile. You've been live for the last 18 minutes. Say hi to my 62,000 Twitter followers. His face didn't change, not even a flicker, just one sentence, then I guess we both escalate. He turned, walked away, and for the first time since this started, I realized we hadn't won yet. We'd just made the list of people who get studied. The man in the gray blazer never raised his voice, never pulled a weapon, but when he left, every bird in the neighborhood stopped chirping. The next morning, 3 neighbors got letters marked foreclosure advisory, including us. The foreclosure letter wasn't even in an envelope, just folded once, taped to our front door like a threat disguised as bureaucracy. Grandma Carol saw it first, didn't flinch, just peeled it down, set it on the table, and made coffee like she was prepping for a polite execution. They moved fast, I said, scanning it. They always do, Grandpa Joe muttered. It wasn't just us. By noon, 3 neighbors had messaged me with identical letters, each one filled with legal gibberish, false delinquency claims, compliance-backed liens, and a warning that unaddressed violations may result in asset seizure. All of it fake, but official enough to scare anyone who didn't read between the lines. We have 2 options, I told Grandpa Joe. Wait and hope it blows over, or burn their system to the ground. Hope, he said, is for people who don't know where the fuse is. That's when we launched the counterattack. Not revenge, not violence, exposure. Step 1, Grandma Carol. She started with a concerned neighbor letter drop, hand-delivered, individually addressed, printed on pastel cardstock. Each one walked residents through what had just happened, how Brenda had been a puppet, how the scam worked, how the network was still running, and how the man in the gray blazer had already moved on to 3 new neighborhoods. She included a QR code. It led to a Google Drive folder. Inside, every video, every transcript, every file, even the footage of gray blazers you have 24 hours threat, spliced next to Grandpa Joe calling him a coward. Step 2, me. I launched a public website. No pop-ups, no ads, just truth, homeowners.org. The front page, a live stream counter with the title "How many days since this fraud went unpunished?" Below it, a downloadable folder labeled the system they built and how we broke it. Step 3, Grandpa Joe. He made one phone call. No name, no explanation, just this: tell Phillips the man from Checkpoint Charlie is back, and it's time to deliver the favor. I don't know who he called, but 3 hours later, we had a lawyer. A federal one. By 4 p.m., homeowners.org had crashed once from traffic and been re-uploaded twice. Reddit picked it up, so did a housing rights podcast. By 8 p.m., we were on the local news. At 9 p.m., Gray Blazer's site disappeared. Vanished. DNS wiped, hosting killed, domain sold to a GoDaddy graveyard. But that wasn't the win. The win came at 11:47 p.m., when an anonymous email landed in my inbox. Subject was, "You should have taken the deal." Inside, a screenshot, our security footage timestamp from 5 minutes ago, a silhouette on our lawn, and one line of text, "We're still watching." Grandpa Joe didn't panic. He locked the front door, opened the coat closet, and pulled out a briefcase I'd never seen before. Inside, 2 flash drives, a burner phone, a sealed envelope labeled "If you're reading this, we lost." "What is this?" I asked. "Last resort." I froze because he didn't say it like a threat, he said it like a fact he'd carried in his back pocket for 30 years. Then he handed me a second envelope, lighter, unmarked. "This is the one we use if we want them alive. We picked that one because we weren't here for blood, we were here to end it." At midnight sharp, we triggered the final gambit. A live feed went out across every platform. 3 whistleblowers came forward anonymously. Our lawyer filed a petition for federal investigation, citing interstate wire fraud, elder targeting, and data laundering. And most importantly, we sent an open letter to every HOA in the county. Subject line, "They're coming for you next, unless you help us finish them first." It worked. Within 12 hours, 9 board members from 6 other neighborhoods came forward with evidence, digital fingerprints, payment records, meeting notes. One of them admitted they had been forced to participate under threat of having their mortgage revoked. And then one final piece dropped, a voicemail from Brenda, hysterical rambling. "They were going to erase me. You don't get it. I didn't know how deep it went. It's all in the cloud server. There's a master file. Find the file." The man in the gray blazer wanted silence. He got a spotlight. "And tomorrow, we dig for the file because somewhere out there is a list, and every name on it is someone they plan to erase next." It started with a countdown, not from us, from them. A timer embedded in the last file we decrypted. Red digits, pixelated, flickering on the corner of the stolen HOA server interface. Full purge in 24 hours. They were going to erase everything. We had less than a day to finish what we started. Find the master file, download the network logs, expose the entire operation before they buried the bodies in digital ash. So we did what every good family does under pressure. We made coffee. Grandpa Joe suited up like he was going on patrol, black boots, flannel hat from a 1987 military reunion, Glock holstered but out of sight. "Why the uniform?" I asked. "Because if this ends the way I think it might," he paused, "I want to be dressed for it." I cracked into the backup server using a payload tucked inside the dummy compliance folder they stole weeks ago. Call it poetic. They weaponized HOA rules, we weaponized their own laziness. Inside the archive, we didn't just find Brenda's mess, we found everything. Hundreds of PDFs, form letters, scripted call logs, real estate transfers, scanned IDs, a folder labeled flagged veteran equals escalate, a subfolder Morrison, and inside that, a document titled Resolution Protocol Last Resort. I opened it and felt my stomach drop. "They forged a restraining order," I said. "Against who?" Grandpa Joe asked. "You. Let me guess, claim I'm violent, unhinged, threatening the neighborhood." "Exactly. And what's the resolution?" "Eviction, based on forged documents, filed through a shell judge who doesn't exist." Grandpa Joe didn't speak, he didn't need to. We both knew what that meant. This wasn't a scam anymore, it was a covert real estate theft operation built to strip property from vulnerable people under color of law. And the only reason they hadn't pulled the trigger was because we'd made too much noise. "So how do we kill it?" Grandma Carol asked, stepping into the room with a tray of muffins like we weren't preparing to burn down a crime syndicate. "We need one thing," I said. "The name of the man behind it all. The real identity of Gray Blazer. And if he covered his tracks? Then we use the one thing they can't erase, which is Brenda." She cracked first. The voicemail gave us a location, a nondescript office suite tied to one of the shell companies. So we went. No guns, no threats, just 3 people in casual clothes walking into a suburban office park with a portable printer, a legal injunction, and 2 terabytes of leaked data. The receptionist blinked. "Do you have an appointment?" "No," Grandpa Joe said. "We have evidence." We handed over a USB. "One file, the list. You might want to tell your boss we're about to go live." "Live where?" "Everywhere." And we meant it. I hit upload on the final package, the clean, time-stamped evidence drop with full naming structure, and within minutes, it was up on the IRS whistleblower portal, the SEC complaint board, 2 federal prosecutor tip lines, 3 news outlets, and a TikTok account Grandma Carol created, which hit 80,000 views by lunch. It didn't take long. That afternoon, we heard sirens. Not for us, for them. Federal agents swept the office park. 3 arrests made on site. Gray Blazer wasn't there, but his real name was tied to 11 LLCs, 4 shell holding firms, and 2 wire fraud convictions buried under expungement rulings. But this time, there were too many eyes. He was picked up in another state, quietly but not secretly. We made sure of that. A week later, every affected neighborhood got restitution notices. Victims were cleared of debt. Brenda testified in exchange for immunity, and the HOA system disbanded permanently. The porch flag is still up, higher than ever. Grandpa Joe added a second pole, not for another flag, just a metal sign that says, "We don't break, we broadcast." "You regret not pulling the trigger?" I asked him one night, beer in hand. "I regret that it had to get this far," he said, "but I'll tell you what. What feels good is to win." Grandma Carol passed him a muffin. "Feels better to finish." The house stayed ours. The system collapsed. The names were cleared. And the man in the gray blazer? He went to prison. Not for fraud, not for extortion, but for messing with the wrong family. This isn't a story about revenge, it's a story about survival, about remembering that the people they try to erase are usually the ones worth remembering.